Welcome back to Kleppers Corner, Today in History, the show that proves history is basically just humanity's long-running blooper reel, except the bloopers cost billions, collapse bridges, and occasionally smell like beer. Today's date, October 17th, is less of a day and more of a mixtape of turning points: military, economic, criminal, and geological. So grab your helmets, your tax records, and maybe a pint of porter, because this one's going to be messy. Segment 1. The British surrender at Saratoga, America's first mic drop. October 17th, 1777, the day America officially became that scrappy underdog in the sports movie who suddenly wins the big game. General Burgoyne, a British officer with more competence than strategy, marches into New York thinking he's about to end the revolution. Instead, he walks into a wilderness full of angry colonists with pitchforks and Polish engineers who really know how to build hills. Horatio Gates leads the Americans, which is ironic because most of the actual fighting was done by Benedict Arnold, the guy who later says, you know what, maybe I'll try the British side next season. It's the original toxic workplace story. One guy does the work, the boss takes the credit, and suddenly you're betraying your country. The victory at Saratoga convinces France to join the fight, because nothing says, we believe in your democracy, like an absolute monarchy helping you overthrow another monarchy. And thanks to the French, the war becomes global. Britain's military goes from, we got this, to, why is Spain here and who invited the Netherlands? Oh, and the surrendered troops, the so-called Convention Army, were promised they could go home. Congress said, sure, right after you take a scenic 5-year walk through every miserable corner of the colonies. It's the revolutionary version of saying, we'll mail you your refund in 6 to 8 business years. Segment 2. The Treaty of Campo Formio, Napoleon's first big flex. Fast forward to October 17th, 1797. Napoleon Bonaparte signs the Treaty of Campo Formio, ending the War of the First Coalition. France gains huge territories. Venice disappears like a magician's trick, and Napoleon gets that glint in his eye that says, you know, maybe I should run Europe. It's the birth of modern geopolitics. One ambitious guy with great PR reshapes the continent while everyone else says, we can control him, right? Spoiler, no, they could not. This treaty is basically Europe's first Tinder red flag. Charming, dangerous, and destined to lead to mass destruction. Segment 3. The First Balkan War, because Europe never learns. October 17th, 1912. The Balkan League declares war on the Ottoman Empire. Serbia, Greece, and Montenegro pile on like it's the last slice of geopolitical pizza. The result? The Ottoman Empire loses nearly all its European territory. Nationalism spikes, and the stage is set for World War I. You know, the big one. Basically, this was the geopolitical equivalent of lighting a match in a fireworks factory, and then handing the match to a guy named Archduke Ferdinand. Segment 4, the 1973 OPEC oil embargo, when gasoline became a weapon. October 17th, 1973. OPEC says, you like oil? Try living without it. In response to U.S. support for Israel during the Yom Kippur War, Arab nations cut off oil exports to the West. Prices quadruple, the economy tanks, and suddenly America realizes that maybe those 12-mile-per-gallon muscle cars weren't such a bright idea. Lines at gas stations stretch for miles. People start buying tiny Japanese cars because they actually work. Jimmy Carter eventually appears on TV wearing a cardigan and telling everyone to turn down their thermostats, the national symbol of defeat. And out of this crisis comes the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a big underground vault of oil that America treats like a piggy bank, or, let's be honest, a hangover cure for bad policy decisions. It's also the moment the phrase energy independence enters political bingo cards forever. Every president since has promised it. None have delivered it. And we still panic every time gas prices go up 10 cents. Classic. Segment 5. The London Beer Flood, Britain's sudsiest disaster. October 17th, 1814. London proves that even disasters can be deliciously ironic. At Muse & Company's Horseshoe Brewery, a massive beer vat explodes, unleashing over 300,000 gallons of porter into the streets. The result? 8 people drown in beer. It's tragic, but you just know some guy said, at least they died doing what they loved. The brewery gets bailed out by Parliament, the victims' families get nothing, and Britain learns that beer waves are only fun until they happen to you. It's the Industrial Revolution in a nutshell. Workers die, capital survives, and the rich get a tax break. Somewhere Karl Marx was probably taking notes while sipping an ale. Segment 6. Justice served cold. Al Capone's tax evasion conviction. October 17th, 1931. Al Capone, Chicago's original influencer of crime, finally goes down. Not for murder, not for racketeering, but for forgetting to file his taxes. You know you've messed up when the IRS becomes the hero of the story. Frank Wilson and his team of accountants trace Capone's lavish spending. Diamonds, custom suits, luxury cars, all without a single tax form. It's the Great Depression. People are starving, and Capone's like, put it on the tab. The jury finds him guilty. The judge swaps juries mid-trial to outsmart bribery, and Capone ends up in Alcatraz, where his biggest racket is probably trading cigarettes for soup. The moral? You can bribe cops, silence witnesses, and run Chicago, but you can't hide from math. TurboTax, 1. Organized crime, 0. Segment 7. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, when baseball met seismology. October 17th, 1989. Game 3 of the World Series, Giants versus A's. Just before the first pitch, the ground shakes violently, magnitude 6.9. It's the first televised earthquake in history, and for a moment, everyone thinks it's part of the pregame show. 63 people die, mostly in collapsed freeways and buildings built on landfill that liquefies like bad pudding. Engineers call it soil amplification. Californians call it Tuesday. But the disaster changes everything. Stricter building codes, seismic retrofits, and the shake alert warning system. It's one of the rare times government learned a lesson and actually did something before the sequel. Still, decades later, most Californians don't buy earthquake insurance because nothing says preparedness like betting against plate tectonics. Segment 8. A brain, a saint, and a rap god walk into a timeline. October 17th is also packed with birthdays and weirdly connected people. Albert Einstein lands in America in 1933, escaping the Nazis and inventing the "I'm just here to think" lifestyle. 16 years later, Mother Teresa wins the Nobel Peace Prize for compassion and probably patience after explaining charity to a room full of world leaders. Arthur Miller is born, writes The Crucible, and accidentally becomes the literary version of "Are You Seeing This, America?" Rita Hayworth is born too, Hollywood's golden goddess whose smile could end wars. And in 1972, Eminem enters the world, proving that even the angriest kid in Detroit can rhyme his way to billions and still be mad about it. Also born today, Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space. Evel Knievel, the man who thought gravity was a suggestion. And Norm Macdonald, the only comedian who could make death itself chuckle awkwardly. Meanwhile, Chopin dies on this day in 1849. His piano weeps. And China's last emperor, Puyi, dies in 1967 after living 3 lives: monarch, puppet, and humble citizen. Talk about a reboot arc. Segment 9. So what have we learned? October 17th reminds us that history isn't random. It's a highlight reel of humanity's finest oops. One day it's freedom, the next it's flooding beer, the next it's your accountant putting you in jail. We fight wars, we rebuild, we run out of gas, and somehow we keep coming back for more. From the revolution's surrender at Saratoga to the shaking streets of San Francisco, today proves that chaos has always been our co-pilot. And the only thing more powerful than history itself is hindsight. So, happy October 17th. Hug an engineer, thank your accountant, and if you see a giant vat of beer, maybe don't stand directly under it.